This is a story about a man named Daniel. Daniel was good at his job, really good. The kind of good that gets noticed, that gets you more responsibility, a bigger title, a longer to-do list. By his early 30s, he was managing a team, running projects, answering emails at midnight, and telling himself that this was just what success looked like, that the exhaustion was the price, that everyone serious about their life was paying it. He wore his busyness like a badge, and for a while it worked. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday afternoon. Daniel was in a meeting, one of those long ones that should have been an email, and someone asked him a straightforward question about a project he was leading, a question he should have been able to answer in seconds. And he just couldn't find it. The information was in there somewhere, he knew that. But his mind felt like a browser with 40 tabs open and none of them loading. He stumbled through an answer. Nobody seemed to notice. But he noticed. He wrote it off. Told himself he was just tired. Got a coffee. Kept going. Over the next few months, it kept happening. Little things. He'd read the same paragraph 3 times and still not take it in. He'd make decisions during the day and then lie awake at night second-guessing them. He started missing details he would never have missed 2 years earlier. Small errors. Nothing catastrophic. But they were adding up. The harder he pushed, the worse it seemed to get. So he pushed harder still, because that was the only solution he knew. Fall behind, work more. Feel slow, stay later. Feel overwhelmed, start earlier. He genuinely believed that if he just powered through it, he'd come out the other side. That the fog was a temporary problem and effort was the answer. It didn't occur to him that the effort was the problem. The moment things shifted for Daniel came not at his desk, but on a Sunday afternoon in his garden. He'd gone outside to clear his head for 20 minutes before diving back into his laptop. He sat down, did absolutely nothing, and somewhere in that stillness, for the first time in months, an idea came to him, clean and clear and fully formed. A solution to something he'd been grinding on all week without getting anywhere. He didn't go looking for it. He stopped looking, and it arrived. He went back inside, wrote it down, and spent the rest of the afternoon outside. And something about that unsettled him. Not the idea itself, but where it came from and what that said about everything else he'd been doing. Daniel started paying attention differently after that. He noticed that his best work never happened in the 8th hour of the day. It happened in the first 2, when he was fresh. He noticed that the days he took a long lunch actually stopped, stepped away. He came back and moved faster than on the days he ate at his desk and never broke stride. He noticed that the weekends he genuinely rested, Monday felt like a different gear entirely. He'd always had this data. He just never looked at it, because nobody had ever told him it was relevant. The model he'd been handed said, more hours, more output, linear, mechanical. And for years he'd applied that model to himself without questioning it, without ever asking whether it was actually true. It took him a while to really sit with what that meant, because if rest was part of the process, not a reward at the end of it, but an actual ingredient, then everything he'd been doing wasn't discipline, it was just damage. All those late nights when the work was getting worse with every hour. All those weekends he spent half working and half guilty, getting neither proper rest nor anything useful done. All the decisions he'd made at the end of long, depleted days that he later had to undo. The time he'd lost wasn't on the days he rested. It was on the days he refused to. That was the lie. Not that hard work doesn't matter. It does. But that the volume of hours is what produces results. That running yourself into the ground is the same thing as performing at a high level. It isn't. It never was. Daniel didn't become someone who worked less. That's not really the point of this story. He became someone who worked differently. He started protecting his mornings. He started finishing at a real time and meaning it. He started taking his days off without his phone, without the background hum of tasks waiting for him, without the guilt. Not because he stopped caring about his work, because he understood, finally, that he was the tool, and a depleted tool does more damage than good. The quality of his thinking improved. The mistakes slowed down. He started contributing ideas in meetings again instead of just managing the fog. His team noticed before he did. Daniel's story isn't unusual. There are versions of it everywhere. People running on empty, convinced that the emptiness is just the cost of ambition, that rest is weakness, that stopping means falling behind. But here's what Daniel learned, and what I think is worth holding on to. The most productive thing you can do on many days is stop, rest fully, and come back tomorrow as a sharper, clearer version of yourself, one actually capable of doing work that matters. That's not giving up. That's not taking the easy road. That's just understanding how this actually works.